Hey, welcome back. This is the C Space Studio here at CES 2024. Can you believe it? I am James Kotecki, and joining me now, this is the 7th year of the C Space Studio, by the way, which is contextually important because joining me now is a guest from the very first year of the C Space Studio. He has come back. Adam Gerhart, you are now interim CEO of GroupM North America, and we welcome you back to the C Space
Thanks
Studio.
for having me.
And Adam, so in addition to being interim CEO GroupM North America,
Yep.
you were also global CEO of Mindshare. So can you just kind of set the table for us, contextualize your roles, these organizations, how it all fits together?
That's not easy enough for you?
Yeah.
So GroupM is WPP's media investment arm. We are the biggest media buyer in the world, representing roughly $60+ billion. And our ambition, quite honestly, is to define the next era of media and marketing. Within it, Mindshare is one of the agencies. Our ambition as Mindshare is essentially to deliver growth for our clients, but to do so in a way that is enduring, diverse, and responsible. So you can start to see how those two are pretty synergistic.
So you come to CES every year?
Yeah.
So what brings you here this year? What is especially important to you as you think about the CES?
I mean, I think the amazing thing about CES is that it's this perfect confluence of technology, media, innovation, and everything in between. And for us, it's about understanding how we can harness that to drive more meaningful engagements between consumers and the brands and the businesses that we represent.
Yeah, so you set yourself up with a very easy task of defining the future of media and marketing, as you said. So what kind of trends are you thinking about and focusing on? I mean, there's obviously AI, which is a huge one here at the show. We can dive into that if you want. But I mean, as a CEO, how do you even start to approach that grandiose mission?
I mean, for us, it's really about helping our clients navigate everything that they're seeing here, whether it's technology, media, whether it is new experiences, and really helping them understand how they can leverage it for innovation in the future. I think that the challenge is there's so much around us, so we're looking at every single type of trend, but the single-minded focus is always, how do we leverage what we're seeing to help clients connect with consumers in a more meaningful way, whether it's a deeper relationship, whether it's a more lasting connection, and I think that's the beauty of what we start to see at CES.
I brought up AI, we're going to get to it eventually, so I might as well talk about it now.
Yeah.
Are you seeing ways to do that? Are you seeing right ways and wrong ways to try and use AI to build those meaningful conversations? I'd be curious in both examples.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the fascinating thing with AI is it's obviously the talk of the year. I think that's in part because it missed the hype cycle from last year just by like 2 months, but also because it is more visible from a consumer perspective with the advent of ChatGPT and things like that. But the reality is AI's been around for a while now, and we've been harnessing it in everything from predictive analytics all the way through to media optimizations and everything in between. But I think the way we start to think about it is really through a term that we call AI offsetting, which is how do you leverage AI to detask yourself from some of the more rote motor skills and tasks, but also in doing so allow yourself to reinvest in more human spaces and how we can leverage it to move things forward. Yeah.
And are you seeing that with your own teams now, that it's really kind of coming into its own in its ability to offset some of those tasks?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it allows us to invest more in the spaces that we want to, and a great example is WPP. We're partnering with NVIDIA and their Omniverse cloud to actually do more creative, faster, and iterate in a more rapid way. And so the application there is incredible because you can have an amazing original concept, but the way in which you bring it to life is faster.
Yeah. You sit atop a team of technologists and creatives. I mean, as many folks are leaders in both of those areas here in C Space and here at CES writ large. Do you have to figure out how to best message this transition to people? How do you lead a team through this transition? I imagine maybe there was someone in your organization when ChatGPT first came out, 14, 15 months ago, that was a little nervous, right?
Yeah.
So how do you kind of bring people to the promised land?
Well, I think that's where the notion of offsetting comes into play. You can talk about how it actually liberates them to think and apply it to more strategic ways that they should be thinking about their role. And if you message it in that positive way and talk about the future and what it can bring, actually it's an amazingly powerful tool.
So are you bullish on human creativity going forward?
Yeah, massively. And I think that's where AI can actually unleash some of that potential. But it means that we can't be afraid to lean into it, and we have to embrace it for what it is.
Do you see, I mean, it's a very competitive landscape, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody I talk to is talking about AI, at least they're just talking to me about it, presumably they're actually implementing it. Do you see AI as kind of it takes everybody up a level, but now you still have to compete human to human because everyone has access to not just ChatGPT, but all kinds of tools like that.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's where we talk about man and machine. The two have to work in tandem. You can't just over-index on one side or the other. And I think the thing that we forget about generative AI is that it's built and it's trained based on what exists. You still need original thinking and creativity to keep pushing it further and advancing it.
Yeah. We're here at CES, which is a show that is in some ways defined by cool devices, cool gadgets, cool screens, right, to show all the content and media and marketing that we're creating. Anything you have your eye on that might be here on the show floor or just generally that you've got on the horizon that you're just kind of curious about and thinking about ways that you'll be playing in that space.
Yeah, I mean, from an advertising perspective, we're looking at the convergence between things like CTV and commerce and how everything becomes shoppable in the future.
Yeah.
But on the other extreme, we start to think about where the space is going to go in terms of verticals for our clients. The future of automotive, the future of mobile handsets, and everything in between.
Yeah. Future of automotive is especially interesting. CES is increasingly becoming known as a car show. Are there specific things about showing people something, showing people an ad in a car that people might not be aware of that you have to think about when you're thinking about creating messaging for that space?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, kind of goes back to the AI point. The single biggest thing that we need to keep in mind is how do we use the new technology and the advances that we're seeing around us in a responsible way. And that is at the forefront of everything that we do. Because if we don't, the technology has potential to actually run away from us and itself.
Yeah. You're a big picture person. You're here at CES, and we're here in the C Space Studio, which is a bit speculative. So I'm wondering, from a big picture perspective, is there a big space? Is there a big gap between brands who get this and brands who don't? I mean, as this technology continues to advance, maybe faster than some people are able to keep up with it. So how are there some brands that are just way more advanced at this than others, and some that are really being left behind?
I mean, I think the interesting thing about CES is you think about it through the lens of business. There's more than 300 of the Fortune 500 companies represented here. That means that most organizations out there understand the implications of technology on not just marketing, but actually their business as a whole. And we're starting to see it transform everything from supply chain all the way through to marketing and everything in between.
Yeah. We talked about 7 years ago. We don't want you to be a stranger, but curious if we have another conversation in a similar interval of time in the future, are there things that you think we might be talking about then that are not really a present mind right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to be talking about the same thing, but the pace at which they are changing and evolving is accelerating. 6 years ago, we talked about autonomous driving, and the reality is it exists, but not at a scale that we thought it would today.
Yeah.
And that's because the technology hadn't really caught up with the vision and the ambition for it. And we're now at a point where through things like AI, the decisioning that is required to sit behind things like autonomous driving is actually there. So I think the reality of the future is going to be the things we're talking about today start to become much more of a reality.
Do you have to, and maybe over the years you've developed, do you have any kind of a filter for things that are overhyped? So there's a number of buzzwords and concepts and things that I've talked about over the years that we're just not bringing up as much anymore. The metaverse, the blockchain, crypto stuff, automated driving, and all those things are definitely still in the mix. You can definitely still see it all at the show floor. This year, everybody's talking about AI.
Yeah.
Is it possible, just to take the kind of counterpoint for a moment, that some of this is overhyped or it won't develop in the way that we all think or expect right now?
Yeah, for sure. I think the beauty of CES, though, and the way in which we think about it, is that innovation can be defined in a million different ways. And so you can talk about the hype cycle of some of those different areas and concepts, but the reality is it's meaningful for some businesses and it might not be for others. And so if you think about innovation through the lens of small marginal gains all the way through to big disruptions, then actually everything that we're seeing here is applicable in some capacity.
Yeah. Everything matters, but it's hard to know exactly how it'll matter in the future.
Precisely.
Fill in the blank for me. The future of our industry is blank.
The future of our industry is moving at a pace we've never seen before.
I love that. I left a little pause there to use that as a soundbite because that was fantastic. Adam Gerhart, Interim CEO, GroupM North America, and Global CEO of Mindshare. We really appreciate you returning to the C Space Studio, and we hope you come back sooner than another 6 or 7 years.
Thanks for having me. We'll see you soon.
And thank you so much for watching. I'm James Kotecki here in the C Space Studio at CES 2024. We are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and X, formerly Twitter, all of those CES social media channels. This concludes our morning stream. We've got a whole afternoon live stream that's going to be going on, bringing you so many conversations in media, marketing, advertising, branding, and more. I am James Kotecki. Stay with us, come back. We'll be back with more conversations very soon.